And those groups that we're looking at, most of the major groups in America, like CARE, ISNA, NAIC, the Muslim Student Associations, and others, are in fact enemies of our Constitution that promote Sharia. And we know this from evidence entered into a trial, the largest successfully prosecuted Hamas financing trial in U.S. history. $12.4 million specifically go to the families of suicide bombers. And the groups that were listed there are the major mainstream groups that our government continues to work with in many cases. The implications of the Holy Land Foundation trial proved three things. One, there was a subversive element in America that wants to replace our Constitution. Two, that it was a Muslim Brotherhood entity. And three, that the majority of the groups in America, as I just stated, were in fact those groups and part of it and are unindicted co-conspirators in that list. We have groups like CARE working in schools. Right now we're fighting a battle down in Tampa. 3 years this group has been speaking in schools, and CARE is one of the co-conspirators of the largest terrorism finance case in U.S. history, and CARE members were sentenced to 65 years in prison. 3 quotes, and one is from CARE member. Ibrahim Hoopa, the national spokesman for CARE, said, quote, "I'm not going to tell you that I wouldn't like for the government of the United States to become Sharia in the future. I'm not going to do anything violent to promote it. I'm going to do it through education, meaning the schools." Rajit's going to be talking about some of this. Dawanet, they said public schools are fertile grounds where the seeds of Islam can be sowed in the hearts of non-Muslims. And Shabbir Mansuri, the group that is the Council on Islamic Education, the primary group responsible for information in all textbooks across the nation, said, quote, "I am waging a bloodless revolution in America's public schools, promoting world cultures and faiths." If you do not think that the enemy is going after the hearts and minds of your children, you're wrong, because that's where the cultural jihad is being waged. Thank you, and I look forward to speaking to you.
The reason why I am so passionate about this subject is because it has affected my life personally. As you saw in the video, I was born and raised in Lebanon, which used to be the only majority Christian country in the Middle East. We were open-minded, we were fair, we were tolerant, we were multicultural. We prided ourselves on our multiculturalism. We had open border policy. We welcomed everyone into our country because we wanted to share with them the westernization which we had created in the heart of the Arabic world. Muslims used to send their children to study in our universities because we had built the best universities in the Arabic world. They graduated and worked in our economy because we had built the best economy in the Middle East. Beirut became known as Paris of the Middle East, the banking capital of the Middle East. And we didn't even have any oil. We did, however, have brains. And then everything started to change in my country. Once the Muslims became the majority, especially with the influx of the Palestinians out of Jordan, they declared war on the Christians. And they formed their own army called Jaysh Lebanon al-Arabi, the Arabic Lebanese army. And they started killing the Christians. My 9/11 happened to me in 1975 when the radical Muslims blew up my home, bringing it down, burying me under the rubble wounded, as they shouted, Allahu Akbar. My only crime was that I was a Christian living in a Christian town. I came to the United States and I thought I left it all behind me. I left the crazies over there. I met my American sweetheart in Israel. I married him. I came to the United States and I thought I'm going to start a new life in America. And I did. My husband and I had 2 children. We started our own little business in Virginia. And we were living the American dream until September 11th happened. And I remember watching the news on September 11th and the flashbacks that I had as I watched people being pulled from under the rubble, like my parents pulled me from under the rubble. People crying and wailing and screaming. I can remember my mother's screams, yelling my name, looking for me. I can smell the smoke as I watch the smoke on television. I know what that smells like. I know the smell of black powder. I know that smell of bombs. And I laid on my couch in my family room for 6 days. September 11th happened on a Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. And until Sunday, I was in my pajamas, debilitated, laying on my family room couch. It was flashback like a nightmare. And that's when I realized I need to make a difference. I cannot let this happen here. The problem that we are facing in this country is that people in this country are too afraid to connect the dots. Because if they do connect the dots, they're going to have to do something about it. Our elected officials are too afraid to discuss the situation. Our government failed to inform our people about what we are really dealing with immediately after September 11th. Everybody wanted to be politically correct. I mean, after all, we had elected officials speeding through red traffic lights just to get to the nearest mosques to tell the Muslim, it's not your fault. We know it's not your fault. Instead of calling the Muslim community on the carpet and saying, how could you harbor 19 radicals within your community? Don't tell me you didn't know about it. I'm going to shed a light on tonight for you. And I'm going to start with an organization called the Muslim Brotherhood. It's an organization that you heard a lot about, especially after last January with the revolution in Egypt. Not this January, but a year before that. You know, the Muslim Brotherhood, the moderate Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is the oldest Islamic terrorist organization in the world, founded in 1928, and has 70 offshoot Islamic organizations, including Al-Qaeda and Hamas. Now, if the Muslim Brotherhood, if the Islamic world, Al-Qaeda, attacked us because of our foreign policy, because we are friends of Israel, then why was the Muslim Brotherhood founded in 1928? Israel wasn't even in existence. We had an isolationist foreign policy back then. We were not in the Middle East. The Muslim Brotherhood was created to usher back the Islamic Caliphate, which had ended 5 years prior. The Muslim Brotherhood wrote a plan in 1982. It's a 100-year plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West. In the counterterrorism circles, this plan became known as the Project. The plan was written in Europe, and if you look at Europe today, you see how far they have advanced in their plan in the last 30 years. They wrote another plan for the United States. The plan for the United States was written in 1991 on how to destroy the United States from within. What makes the Muslim Brotherhood Project unique is it gives tactics and proposals as to how to infiltrate and dominate the West, how to use our open-mindedness against us, how to use our tolerance against us. They even give buzzwords on how you can do with Westerners, buzzwords that the West just gravitate towards. They talk about how to set up non-profit organizations and human rights organizations and maintain the appearance of moderation in order to advance radical Islam in the West. They don't call it radical Islam. That's actually a Western invention. They call it Islam. They talk about how to place Muslim interns at different levels of government on all countries, not only the United States, in all Western countries. How to work with like-minded progressive organizations that share similar goals. This is why when you look, for example, at the ACLU working with CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, you scratch your head and you think to yourself, how can these two organizations have anything in common? But the ACLU are used as the useful idiots in the hands of CARE. In the United States, they wrote a plan in the United States in 1991 about the destruction of the United States. This plan was presented as evidence, here is the plan, was presented as evidence at the Holy Land Foundation trial, the largest ever anti-terrorism trial in the history of the United States. It was a terror financing trial where 108 guilty verdicts were handed down. The plan's title is مذكرة تفسيرية للهدف الاستراتيجي العام للجماعة في أمريكا الشمالية, which means an explanatory memorandum for the strategic goal for the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. Now, what makes this so important is that one paragraph I'm going to read to you out of this plan. And here's the paragraph. The process of settlement of the Muslim Brotherhood is a civilization jihadist process, which means a cultural process. With all the word means, the ikhwan, or the brothers, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and, quote, sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers so that it is eliminated and Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions. Number 2 on the list is the MSA, the Muslim Student Association. The Muslim Student Association today has more chapters on American college campuses than the Democrats and the Republicans combined. The Muslim Student Association was launched in the United States in 1963. So for those of you who think this is recent activity by radical Muslims, only now we are waking up to realizing what they have been doing in the United States. Number 8 on the list is NATE, the North American Islamic Trust, which controls the majority of mosques in the United States. Number 22 on the list is IAP, Islamic Association for Palestine, which later became CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations. And they have many others. We have 29. I just touched the tip of the iceberg to give you an idea as to what we are dealing with and what we are talking about.